I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It is January 9th, 2014. Tonight I'm going to be going over a few different topics in a bit more detail. Things I've gone over before, but I want to get into a bit more detail. I want to expand on a few comments, a few things I was getting into last night about gun control. My explanation of it, there was a few things that I know it was kind of broad, and I did it a bit in detail about what I was talking about last night, how they're brainwashing people, but I didn't get a chance to play the clip from Eric Holder, and there was a few other things. So I'm going to expand on that a little bit tonight. I'm going to get into the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, what it is, a little bit more in detail. We're going to spend some time on that because this is a really dangerous thing, and nobody knows about it. At least not many people, anyway. I shouldn't say nobody, because there is awareness of it to a level that it's been stalled somewhat. Not stopped, and they're still pushing forward with it, but they wanted to have this completed before the end of 2013. So I mean, we've stalled them somewhat, but they're still trying to forge ahead with this. So I want to get into the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I'm going to play you some audio so you can hear about what it is. And because I can't get all of these activists on last minute, like 3 or 4 of them, I have a couple different audio clips from different people, so you can hear what it entails. And I urge you, if you have no idea what the TPP is, after tonight, I hope you go investigate it further. Call Congress, make a stink, make a video. If you're a radio show host and you don't know about the TPP, which is hard to believe, but if you're somebody that does radio or whatever, a podcast, do podcast, YouTube video, whatever, write an article, blog, tell everybody, because this affects everybody in a negative way. It does not affect us in a good way at all. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Fukushima, 36 signs that the media is lying to us about Fukushima, and a few other things. So that's what we're going to be getting into tonight. Before I forget, I'm going to remind everybody, because I'm trying to change up pace a little bit here and remember to plug certain things. I am selling right now for a limited time until they're gone, because I only have a limited amount of them. And the site is back up, by the way. Thank you, IT personnel. They were able to get everything done. FederalJack.com is back up to 100%. So you can go there, you can listen live pages up, all the archives are up there. Anyway, if you go there, I'm selling a limited edition copy of Judith Vary Baker's book, Me and Lee. So if you pick it up, you can pick up a copy there. They're autographed from the 50th anniversary by Judith. Again, I didn't buy them and then try to sell them, unbeknownst to her. This is actually, I'm selling them for her because they were what was left, and I had them sign I had her sign all of them on the 22nd. That way it was something special. And then I told her, yeah, I will sell them for her because she asked me to. So she didn't have to take them back to Europe and then try to mail them back, from across the pond to people because that's really expensive. Talk about that would really up the price, wouldn't it? So anyway, for $30, you include shipping. You get the book. It's signed by Judith on November 22nd, and you get Truth Frequency Radio bumper sticker. Right now I've got couple copies left of Wake Up Call. It's a documentary about pretty much the whole agenda. It's about 2 hours long. Good friend of mine put it together. He goes by the name John Nada. It's a reference to Roddy Piper's character, and They Live. Anyway, the documentary I throw in for free, bumper stickers, some Federal Jack flyers and business cards and stuff, and obviously the book. So, and then shipping is included as well. It's $30. PayPal button is there. So I'm selling them for Judith. I've only got about a box and a half left, a little bit over a box and a half left. I had 3 boxes a month ago, and the month of December alone, I sold a ton of them. So once they're gone, you can still purchase her book from Trine Day or Amazon or something whenever you want, but these are limited edition copies because they were autographed by her on the 22nd of November of 2013. I almost said this year, but it's 2014. 2013, the 50th anniversary. And they were autographed by her in Dallas while I was there, with her. So they're kind of a special edition. And again, it's the same price you'd pay if you bought it from the publisher itself, with shipping. It's just this is a limited edition signed copy. So anyway, go over to FederalJack.com. You'll see the widget right on the right side there, or in the header under store. If you highlight it with your mouse, you'll see it pop down. It'll say special edition of Me and Lee, or special limited edition of Me and Lee. Anyway, you can get the book there, and I'll ship it out to you. And when I do ship it out to you, I email you with tracking info. A bunch of the listeners have purchased them. Anybody that's purchased them and is listening actually right now, feel free to go to the chat room over on federaljack.com, listen live page, or truthfrequencyradio.com to the listen live page there. It'll be in the header under chat room. Just click it, and you can go either spot. And in the chat room, if you feel like giving me a good review, if you're happy with your product, or your purchase, I should say, because I haven't gotten any complaints yet. So if you're happy with all the free stuff that you received, feel free to let everybody know that I'm not kidding when I say I do give you a ton of free crap as much as I can. Anyway, moving on. I want to get into, we got 3 things. Fukushima I want to spend a bunch of time on. The TPP, how much time I got? I got about 18 minutes. Let's do the TPP later. Let's get into, first let's get into the gun control stuff, because that'll take up about the rest of this segment. That'll be fine. The reason I'm trying to figure out time frame wise is because I want to spend a large chunk of time on the TPP, and to play all the audio I want to play for you, it's going to take about 25 minutes, somewhere around there. So instead of interrupting it and then picking it up for a few minutes into the next segment, we'll do the gun control stuff first. So yesterday I was discussing how I think the general public is being brainwashed to hate guns and be afraid of guns. And to the point where if they even hear gun, they freak out. A teacher, as I used a reference yesterday, teachers are seeing kids chewing Pop-Tarts into the shape of a mountain. Oh my God, it looks like a gun. We got to expel the kid. Zero tolerance policies are retarded. I've gone off on that before. But they're brainwashing the public, the powers that shouldn't be. They're brainwashing the public. And yes, it's been going on for a long time, but as I stated last night, since the Obama administration has been kicked into overdrive, and they really, really are getting people to the point where they hear the word gun, they see a gun, they're very afraid. Automatically they go into fear mode. People don't even realize it. Their reaction, they'll be, oh my God, a gun, or whatever, however it manifests itself physically in that individual. But people are reacting to this without even realizing that they're being programmed. I don't think people actually understand the level of the programming that's going on. A lot of it's being done subconsciously. A lot of it is neuro-linguistic programming. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It is not a secret, super secret mind control technique. It is a technique of, well, you could say mind control, because manipulation of somebody would be controlling the way they think, right? So that does fall under the mind control to a certain degree, maybe a lesser level. But neuro-linguistic programming is not a secret. I mean, a lot of people in business, sales, know about it. Some of the best salesmen out there, some of the best public speakers out there use it on you, and you don't even realize it. Good car salesman knows how to use it. Most car salesmen are shady, but you know what I mean. I shouldn't say not most. We'll say like 50%. I'll be nice. Anyway, neuro-linguistic programming is used by the media on a daily basis. Watch Sean. Well, I guess you can't watch him anymore because he got thrown off Fox. But when he was on Fox, Sean Hannity is the king of it. A lot of times you would see him certain moves with his hands, and he would point to the screen, or he would make okay signs with his hands, or he would do certain mannerisms with his hands while he was talking to you. And without you even realizing it, his hands, the manipulations and the things he does, are reinforcing what he says or driving the point home. It's making a connection between a certain word and an emotion in your mind. A good grifter knows what I'm talking about. A good con artist or a good con man, a confidence man, knows exactly what I'm talking about. If you want to actually learn, this is how you can use the mainstream media. And you will, obviously, like anything, you will see little things thrown out in your face. In fact, sometimes it's fun to watch their programming, and I like to play a game with my wife where we try to pick out all the subtleties, and not the stuff that you would think where it's like right in your face on a poster, but the way things are arranged or the way a shot is done to show certain symbolism and stuff too. But we like to pick it out in the mainstream media stuff if we watch it, because everybody needs to unplug once in a while. I don't have a problem with watching something to unplug, but just don't make that stuff your life, and understand that it's fake and that's not real, and understand, once your eyes are awake, you can see through the crap. So, unfortunately, anything, quote, labeled entertainment is garbage nowadays, most of it. Anyway, if you want to understand a good way that they do, or a good way, let me rephrase this, if you want to have a full understanding, a better understanding, I should say, of how neuro-linguistic programming can be used not only by the news media and stuff, but it's used on you in other ways, because once you understand, wow, that's how it's done, you'll sit and think, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. There's a show that used to be on, I think it was TNT, called Leverage, with, the hell's his name? Timothy Hutton. And basically the premise of the show is that there are a bunch of conmen and thieves and grifters and stuff, and they get together and they decide that they're actually going to do good stuff and, to change the world for a positive way, but, using their talents to take down bad guys, basically. But if you watch the show, you actually learn certain things that are true. They get into neuro-linguistic programming, and they show you the basics. I mean, it's done obviously in a nutshell. But if you pay attention, they're showing you exactly how it's done. You could actually get a pretty good understanding, because a lot of times I'll reference grifters or confidence men and things like that on the show for you all. And I have an understanding of them that a lot of people in the general public probably wouldn't understand, or don't have, I should say, of them. So when I reference them, if you don't understand what a grifter is, or you don't understand what a confidence man is, I mean, you could do some research online, but if you want to, while you're relaxing, taking some time off, if you'd like to do that, unplug a little bit, you could also do research at the same time. Watch the show Leverage. It's no longer on TV. I think it was like 4 or 5 seasons long. But if you watch it, you will get a better understanding of how grifters work. And, even though it's TV and it's all scripted and fake, that stuff actually does happen in real life. quite often. And understanding it, at least, if it's too much to go research, whatever, like I said, sometimes maybe that's easier to watch it that way. Once you have an open set of eyes and you get to watch this stuff, a lot of times you'll pick up little things here and there. Anyway, neuro-linguistic programming is used against us all the time. Now, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's not evil itself. It's not like neuro-linguistic programming comes from, a dark dimension and it's evil. It's just something that's done, and it's the way that it's used can be good or evil. I mean, you could manipulate somebody. Somebody could not be thinking clearly, and you could use it, maybe to manipulate the situation, maybe stop the person from harming themselves. A good negotiator could use it to, maybe stop the person from harming other people. So it's not always bad. It depends on how you use it. It's like information or a hammer. A hammer, or goes for guns too. Again, when they attack guns during gun control, they always try to anthropomorphize the weapon. The gun killed people. Oh my God, be afraid of the gun. Well, it's like a hammer or an idea or information or a technique such as NLP. It's not so much that is evil. It's the use of it. Evil doesn't lie in NLP or gun control look, gun control itself is just a political issue to push laws and control of, defending yourself. But it's not, even gun control itself isn't anthropomorphized. It's not physical. So it doesn't have, the use of it is evil, yes. Okay, but itself isn't where the evil lies. The evil lies in the heart of the men pushing for it, and the women. Evil lies in the hearts of men. It doesn't lie in information or a technique, or a hammer, or a gun, or a spoon, or anything, or a pencil, or a keyboard, or a car. The evil lies within that individual and how they use any of that technology, information, any techniques, whatever. So don't take it that I'm saying NLP is, oh my God, of the devil. It's not like that. None of the information I ever tell you about should be taken in that way and be thought about like that. Information and stuff like that, especially itself, information isn't evil. It's what the person does with it that makes it good or evil. Anyway, like Holder said, they want to brainwash us about the way we think about guns. And I mentioned this last night on air, and I want to play this clip for you really quick. He said this back in 1995, and this is, obviously the real clip. There's a 3.5 minute version of it. This one's only about a minute long because it's been edited down so you can hear what he said, but it's not taken out of context. Now, I do agree that the children, you're going to hear him say that kids, the younger men, are exposed a lot to violence. I agree, that is true. The younger generations, and men in particular, young men, are exposed to violence. But it's not the gun's fault, and it's not gun control is not going to stop it. Perhaps the media should stop publicizing all the violence. Where does most of where does the exposure come from mostly? TV, music videos, movies, big screen movies, HBO, cable, DVDs, whatever, video games now. So where does the exposure, the heavy exposure to and then there's always, of course, being, sucked in to join the military and sent to go fight in wars and stuff. But I guess that's okay, because that doesn't, that's not exposing them to violence, right? Sending them in someone else's backyard to kill innocent people that didn't do anything, or just defending their country and don't even know why these people are in their own country, as in the case of 98% of the people they polled in Afghanistan. They don't even know why we're there. Never heard of 9/11. All they know is there's a foreign occupier in their country. What would you do? Anyway, let me play this clip. This is Eric Holder in 1995.
I want to have, as part of the gun initiative, though, an informational campaign to really change the hearts and minds of people in Washington, D.C., and in particular our young people. They are saturated in the media and in entertainment, or by the entertainment industry, with violence. And I think too many of our young people, in particular our young men, are fascinated with violence and in particular fascinated with guns. I've also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way. And just really brainwash people into thinking about guns. And just really brainwash people into thinking about guns.
And just really brainwash people. And just really brainwash people.
That's right out of his mouth. That's Attorney General Eric Holder, current Attorney General Eric Holder, back in 1995. And this was televised on C-SPAN. You can go see the full video on YouTube. Just look up Eric Holder brainwashing gun control, or Eric Holder brainwashing, and multiple versions of the video will come up. He said it. He said, "What'd you hear him say? We need to have the help of the media through repetition. We really just need to repeat the message over and over and over again." Didn't Hitler say something about that? About just keeping the message simple and repeating it over and over again. I believe the Nazis used that, or was it Hitler, or was it Goebbels? What do I pronounce his name? Goebbels, however you want to pronounce it. Was it him? Or was it Hitler? I can't remember. I have to look it up. But basically, the Nazis used the same form of mind control, repetition, over and over and over again. What do you see every day on TV? What do you see? Gunshot stories. Right? Somebody shot themselves, somebody left the gun out, kid found it, shot the kid shot himself. You don't see the other side of the coin, though, too much, do you? I mean, once in a while you do, but you don't see the other side of the coin where people were able to defend themselves with a weapon. Most of the time, that's not reported. More than half the time, the person just showing the gun or, in the act of drawing it out scares the offender off, and the person reholsters it and goes on about their day and doesn't call the authorities, so that's not even reported. But even if it is reported, I mean, there's a lot of stories that get suppressed, positive stories about people defending themselves with weapons, but every time there's a negative story, gangland shootout. Oh my God, could it be the dreaded AK-47 or the dreaded AR-15, the assault rifle of choice of killers? The choice of killers, the AR-15, the dreaded AR-15. Could that be it? No, actually, if you go and you read into most of these stories, more than, I'd say 65-70% of the time, they're small arms. Usually 9mm. Maybe 40. More often than not, a lot of times it's small arms, 9mm, 45, maybe 40 cal. Okay. Fire from a rifle will be considered small arms too, but the difference between a high-powered rifle and me shooting you with a 40 caliber Glock, you know what I mean? If you're shooting at two chunks of meat, you hit one with a Glock 40 cal, or any type of 40 cal, doesn't even matter. Any brand of firearm, shoot it with a 40 cal and then shoot it with a 7.62. Tell me which one you think is going to make a bigger hole. Even if you shot it with a 2.23 or 5.56. Same size round. Anyway, they change the facts on this stuff. A lot of times the story will be about, I've seen it where the cops shot and killed somebody, and the story should have been about how the cops shouldn't have shot and killed the person because the person wasn't armed. And halfway or three-quarters of the way through the story, somehow they're mentioning Trayvon Martin, they're mentioning AR-15s, and, stand your ground and gun control. And it doesn't even have anything to do with the story. When the reality of the focus of the article should be, hey, look, this cop killed this person. It wasn't justified, and there's this epidemic of that, and we need to address that. Oh, no, that wasn't talked about. A lot of the quote-unquote gun crime, love that term, another made-up fake term, gun crime, a lot of their gun crime statistics, when the anti-gun crowd releases these statistics, they include police shootings in those, whether they're justified or not. They include police shootings. So they'll say, oh my God, there's all this murder, oh my God, because people have access to guns, and it's like, there's a huge chunk of that's police killing citizens. Or police shooting people. I mean, it could be a gunfight between bad guys and cops, and they still include that in there as gun crime. It could be cops killing innocent people. It's included as gun crime. Now, I mean, you could argue the semantics of it, but the point is, what they're trying to tell you is there's bad people killing innocent people with all these guns. And that's what those numbers represent. And it's like, no, you start to dig into it, it's lies. Why? Because they're repeating all this, so that way it starts to subliminally program you without you even realizing it, ladies and gentlemen. That's why. They are brainwashing you to change your mind and think differently about guns. Just because they're not in your face screaming at you doesn't mean they're doing it. Doesn't mean they're not doing it, I should say. Sometimes the best way of doing something is to get you to look over here, look at the person screaming and yelling, like Al Sharpton or somebody like that. Focus all your hate and energy on them while behind the scenes they still push along and still put out their mind control propaganda in schools. Think about it. We're going to break. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get right back into it. So, we went to break. I was discussing the gun control, mind control programming that's going on. As I said, pay attention, look into it. Just look into it with an open mind, and you'll be able to see it yourself. So I got to move on because, I got to get into a bunch of other things. And for time, I need to move on from the subject. But it doesn't mean that the subject of gun control is closed or you should not look into it. In fact, you know what? I'll actually take a few extra minutes to pontificate on it a little bit more. You know what? There's one other thing I should get into about gun control. Let me see if I can find the audio really quick while I'm sitting here talking to you guys. There's a piece of audio. There's a there's a group you should look up, whatever you want to call it, website we'll say for right now. It's called thelastcivilright.org. And on there you'll see the Never Again campaign and a few other things. Now, I've looked into this, and what this is this is actually truth and real information that's not being put out there from leaders in the black community and people in the black community, researchers, whatever, prominent people, against gun control, exposing the true racist roots of it. You can check out some of the information over on thelastcivilright.org. It doesn't mean that I agree with everything anybody that's ever posted on that website or any of the people have ever said in their lives. I don't know everything they've ever said. But from my research so far, they're very much on point and they're awake and they know what's up. And they just there's a bunch of videos on there, but there's a thing called the Never Again campaign, and it was I don't know if it's still going on. But I know it was last year where they were educating people. They were going around educating people to the realities and the truths about the history of gun control laws in the past and where they actually come from, and the fact that they're actually race-based because they were afraid that the people that passed the first gun control laws were afraid that free slaves were going to get guns and come after the people that had tortured them and beat the crap out of them and oppressed them. I mean, obviously, they were afraid for a reason because they obviously did something they shouldn't have done, right? Perhaps, maybe if they weren't such horrific individuals to the people that they had enslaved, perhaps if they hadn't treated them horrible, they wouldn't have to fear retribution from them. But they did. And that's where the roots of gun control comes from. It's actually very racist. And a lot of people don't even realize that. A lot of people today will say, oh my God, it's racist if you want to own a gun. Danny Glover was speaking at college, I don't know, 5-6 months ago at a college, and or somewhere, I think it was at a college. He was speaking, and he got onto the subject. They were talking about gun control, and he said that the Second Amendment is racist, and that the Second Amendment was created by white people that were afraid of their black slaves, so that way they could have weapons to kill their black slaves and keep them oppressed and things like that, and keep the black man down. And that's not what the Second Amendment was about at all. The Second Amendment was actually, it didn't say black people couldn't have guns, or Chinese people, or the Irish. It said everybody could have access to a firearm. It didn't matter if you were pink with purple polka dots. If you were a human being and you were, you could, obviously they probably didn't want to give mass murderers and stuff access to weapons even back then. But if you were a free, citizen, if you were, just an average individual Joe, you could have access to a rifle just like a soldier in the army could. That's what the Second Amendment was about. It didn't matter if you were black, white, red. If you were free, you could have that, And by the way, slavery was talked about for the Constitution. It was just that they knew the southern states wouldn't sign on, and the revolution never would have been won without the southern states. So that joined in. So, and they couldn't get them to give up slavery at the time. So it's not that the founding fathers, they all loved slavery. They didn't care about black people. That's such crap. People need to actually actually go back and do some research and see what real history is. Anyway, the NRA itself has its foundations in protecting black people. And I'm not saying the NRA is great today. Now it's been co-opted. The people that I can't stand Wayne LaPierre. They have the worst arguments against gun control. I mean, I've talked about how the NRA drops the ball. They literally, they get the ball. They're 5 feet from the opposing team's end zone, and they run the opposite way into our own end zone. That's the NRA. They really suck. I mean, between them and the Gun Owners of America beats them out in defense of our Second Amendment rights. But the NRA was originally founded to protect black people. Black people don't know that. It was originally founded by religious leaders, preachers, priests, whatever, to ensure that black people had access to firearms, and to ensure that they wouldn't be, blocked from having access to firearms. Therefore, they could be, continually harassed, but also, why should they not be allowed to have firearms? Just because some white dude that may have had them as slaves now is scared because, maybe I shouldn't have whipped him for 10 years in the field. Maybe I shouldn't have shot people the way we did. And that's where the gun control laws came from. And by the way, when the Civil War, after the Emancipation Proclamation, it wasn't like all of a sudden, Abraham Lincoln snapped his fingers and poof, racism stopped. There were still situations in the South where Southern plantation and slave owners did not care. Executed some of the slaves, killed some of them, and rather than let them go free. Well, I mean, that's a case-by-case basis. Those people are idiots, and that guy should have been removed from the planet. But that's the NRA would have. The original intention of it was to give freed black people access to firearms and make sure that they weren't blocked from having access to firearms. That's what it was originally about. As I said, it did get corrupted. But anyway, there's this clip I want to play really quick. It's only a few minutes long. It's about 3 minutes. But it's a bunch of different individuals, I guess they're leaders, reverends, priests in the black community, and they're telling a much different story than Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson or the rest of these racist race baiters, the real problem, the real racists that are out there, right? The Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons and the rest of them. Yeah, let's hear what some real leaders in the black community have to say about gun control.
I want to thank the Lord for our Constitution. I also want to thank the NRA for its legacy. The National Rifle Association was founded by religious leaders who wanted to protect free slaves from the Ku Klux Klan. They would raise money, buy arms, show the free slaves how to use those arms, and protect their families. God bless you. Many of us probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the NRA.
But let me just briefly say that gun control, for Black Americans, we know that gun control has ultimately been about people control. It sprouts from racist soil, be it after or during the infamous Dred Scott case, where Black man's humanity was not recognized. And the beauty about some racists is that sometimes they're blatantly honest. And the racist Chief Justice, Taney, said, we cannot allow the law to recognize the humanity of this individual because he would be able to keep and bear arms. When a lot of Democratic-controlled segregationist governments after the Civil War attempted to deny Black men and women their freedom, they instituted Black codes, largely to deny the Second Amendment from newly freed slaves.
Right after the Emancipation Proclamation, what was going on down in the southern states, it's very clear that the Dixiecrats wanted to disarm Black people to keep us from defending ourselves against the Klansmen who were murdering white and Black Republicans to control the ballot box. So I think history is ripe with examples of there's a correlation, direct correlation between gun control and Black people control.
This current administration is far from the truth. This agenda is becoming more and more obvious to all, that it's a distraction. It's a reason, it's an excuse to carry out an ideology that is more evident every day and every week that goes by, that it is anti-American. And when you touch the Second Amendment, you can't become more anti-American, because America would not be without her guns, and guns would not be necessary without her God. We call upon Americans, both Black, white, Hispanics, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and even those who are not of our faith to agree upon this. Without God, without guns, and without the Constitution, America's end will come with haste. For when they change our Constitution, they will take our guns. And when they take our guns, they will also seek to take our God. That's when Americans will fight back.
And he's right. They are going after the fundamentals that this country was founded upon. It doesn't matter if you're not a religious person or not. The founders of this country, and it doesn't mean that, oh my God, you have to be one of those right-wing Christian nutbags. Nope, not at all. I know that's put out there in the media and stuff, that that's what anybody that believes in God or anything is, but at the time, I think there was over 177 different versions of Christianity at the time in this country when they got together to form this country, this grand experiment. Probably even more, but we'll say for the number I can remember in my head right now, for some reason it's like 177. So we'll say there's something like 177 or a couple hundred different divisions of Christianity. Different versions of it, here or there, when this country came together. And yet, even though there were different versions of it, and maybe this version's God was a little bit different, maybe he was more lenient than this version's God, or maybe this version's God was more of a dick, it didn't matter. They all kind of understood that man's freedom and rights did not come from other men. It didn't come from some king up on high, and from any edict that he may put out. That whether you like it or not, we have an energy, they believe that we have an energy inside us called a soul. Right? For lack of a better term. This essence. And they believe that that essence came from obviously somewhere, and that creative force that created this essence, or wherever this essence comes from, that grand creator, whatever you want to call him, does not matter what religion you believe in. They believe that our rights as natural human beings, as natural beings, as natural living beings, came from that creator. That it did not come from a government. It did not come from some sort of tyrannical king, which people often say, well, we don't have kings anymore. We don't have to worry about that. No, you have tyrannical governments, which are just as bad, if not worse. Because people think they're free. And nobody is more enslaved than those who think they're free. Yes, I'm paraphrasing a bit, but it's the truth. This country thinks it's very free, and it's not. People are manipulated. I have really good friends that think that gun control is a race issue, but the opposite end. And I've had it out with them about this. Some of them I haven't talked to in a while. I guess maybe we're not so good friends anymore. You know, I've heard both ends of the argument. I understand the truth. The truth is, guns don't go out and kill people. People kill people. You have these leaders that come on TV, you know, Al Sharpton, the reason we have problems in the black communities, there's so much access to guns, and these young black kids, they don't have any hope. They have nothing else. It's because you've programmed them to think like that, Al. You want the truth? You've programmed them to think like that. And that's because your puppet masters only allow people like you to get airtime. Faux representatives of the black community. You're not a real representative. Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, please. Jesse Jackson, the man that wiped Martin Luther King Jr.'s blood on his shirt. Yeah. Go look that up. Jesse Dirtbag Jackson. Al Sharpton. These guys aren't real leaders. And the problem is, after the death of Martin Luther King Jr., a lot of the other good leaders that still were out there, some of them were compromised or intimidated. And what do you have today? You don't have any real leaders in the black community like Martin Luther King Jr. Maybe there are, but they're not known. You know what I'm saying? They did that on purpose. Some of it was race-based. It's also about not allowing humanity as a whole to continue to evolve. Because if you think about it, if everybody stopped looking at each other and fighting over race, like say you could actually get quote-unquote black and white people to look past race. Say you could do that. And people actually started thinking differently. Well, they would interact differently, wouldn't they? There wouldn't be all this drama and tension. And then their focus wouldn't be on fighting. Their focus would be on maybe bettering the future, education, real health care. Well, you can't have that when you're trying to control the public, right? You need everybody arguing and fighting amongst themselves. That's the best way to control people. You can't control people if they're all getting along. I mean, you can, but it's much harder. And in today's day and age, good luck with that. The only way they can control us is to keep us distracted and fighting amongst ourselves. That's it. And the fighting amongst ourselves is one of the ways that they're going to bring down this country. It's the biggest way they're going to bring it down. Because this country can't be brought down to its knees on its own. An outside force would come, and America has this attitude of we'll stand up and fight. You know, that is still out there, and that attitude is pervasive. And you can't be an outside force and come in. Well, not yet anyway. So what they have to do is they have to weaken that concrete core that we have. How do they do that? They get us to fight amongst ourselves. They get us to hate each other because we're black, white, red, purple, Indian, Japanese, Irish, Italian, whatever racist belief has been programmed into your head over the course of time because it was programmed into your parents' heads and the people's heads around you and your environment and blah, blah, blah. It's been going on a long time. keep us fighting amongst ourselves. Make us think we're different from each other. Well, you're different than me. You're black. You can't possibly be as human as I am. You're Chinese. Ugh. You're not. You're subhuman. You're Irish. You're Dutch. Or you're white trash. Or you're a white racist. You're an entitled white racist piece of garbage. Whatever has been programmed into your head against whatever particular group. And then there's other parts to the manipulation, but it keeps us arguing amongst ourselves. Keeps us hating on each other, right? And the real people that see through this, well, those real leaders are pushed back. They've made a Travis Sham mockery of leaders in any cultural. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, red. All the quote-unquote people that are looked up to are compromised. The people that get airtime anyway, and the good people that are out there that actually do the right thing and should be the ones that are getting paid attention to, well, they're not allowed to. You see, they took King down from his pedestal, and they will not allow an uncontrolled individual to get up there. Anybody that ever even gets near the pedestal of leadership at all, and not nobody could even fill the shoes of Martin Luther King Jr., but anybody that even tries to step up to the steps of leadership or vocal leadership in the black community is suppressed. And unfortunately, a lot of times they're only effective at a local level. And that's not the message that's pumped out to a lot of these younger generations, because that's who they're brainwashing. They're going after the older people too. I mean, the 50-year-olds, the 60-year-olds, even, my group, the late 30s, early 40s. Yeah, they're going after us. But ladies and gentlemen, let's be honest, we're not the target. We're not really the we're part of the target, but if you were looking at it like a bullseye, we're one of the outer rings. They're brainwashing the youth and the future generations of this country and the way they think. That's why the education system has been modified to an indoctrination system. And I know it was when I was a kid, but it's completely different than it was when I was a kid. You heard him say, Eric Holder say, we want the schools to put out an anti-gun message. How many kids do you see getting expelled for zero-tolerance policies over a Pop-Tart or a G.I. Joe gun? Literally, a gun that's like 1.5 inches, 2 inches long for a G.I. Joe figure. This retardation is happening all over. Kids getting in trouble for playing with airsoft rifles on their own property. Schools suspending them, trying to expel them for playing with airsoft rifles. It shoots plastic pellets. We shot each other with BB guns when I was a kid. And slingshots. For Christ's sake, people got stabbed when I was a kid. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I mean, it wasn't, and I'm not talking like life there. Okay, there were a couple stabbings where kids did get cut deeper, but I mean, kids got cut with knives and stuff. That's how you learned. I know you're trying to keep your kid safe, but you can't keep your kid in a bubble. And when the kid turns to be in their 20s and then you want to get them out of the house, oh, little Johnny, you need to go. Now the kid doesn't want to leave and wants to live with you till he's in his 40s. And you've created a useless member of society. Well done. Well, that's what they're doing. And once that older generation of mom and dads are gone, and the older generation start to die off, you people in your 70s and 80s that are listening, then look, unfortunately, I love all of you, but in the next 20 years, a lot of you are not going to be with us anymore, unfortunately. I hope all of you are. But if we have to be realistic. That's what these people, they think ahead in terms like that, 20, 30, 40 years. They know that all of you intelligent, free individuals, a lot of the older crowd who, yeah, maybe because you were duped, you guys didn't know what was going on back in the day, but you guys are free thinkers. The older generations are one of the largest parts of my listening audience. Or a huge part of my listening audience anyway, are the older crowd, the 65 and up crowd, even the younger, like we'll say 60 and up. Well, to the people that are like in their 70s or 80s that tune in, look, I'm not being a jerk, but we have to be realistic because of the way that, human feeding and everything else. Usually most people don't live to be 100 or 105. Some people do. But a lot of you won't be with us in the next 20 years. They plan on that. They want that, the powers that shouldn't be. Because you people, you guys have a better understanding of how things used to be. You understand what real freedom was. You have a better understanding of how things have changed. And it's your wisdom that they want gone. Because that can taint their programming. That's why I tell the older generations, I don't want to ever hear you say that you're not useful in any capacity whatsoever, or you can't stop this, or you can't help stop this. Bullshit, you can't. You people have the gift of understanding what it was like before this draconian stuff that's going on now, especially in the past 10, 15 years, and the definite change in the way people think. And understanding what's going on now, you have a better understanding of why people change the way they think. It's not so much just, it's the times are changing, people. Like maybe people thought in the past. They want you gone. So then it's my generation that's older, and the generations that are younger than us right now that are being programmed will be in positions of power. They'll be like my age. And they'll be in these positions of power with this brainwashed mentality about government being your mommy and your daddy. About being afraid of guns. Ooh, scary guns. And all the other crap that they do. That's what they're doing. They're brainwashing everybody, these younger generations. That's why you see kids. Why do you think this kids are running around in this knockout game thing? Why do you think kids have that mentality now? No morals, no boundaries. That's part of this whole agenda. That's why the younger generation is not like my generation, or even the generations a few years younger than me. That's why things are drastically different. We need to get together and realize that they're doing this to all of our children, and we all are on the same team, and we need to stop it and look past our petty differences. It's time to stand up and fight this, damn it. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Hour 2, Trans-Pacific Partnership in Fukushima. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is January 9th, 2014. Tonight, I've been talking about gun control and how we're manipulated and fighting against each other. If you didn't get a chance to hear hour 1, go back and listen to it. Really good hour. I'm going to move on, get into the TPP in Fukushima. So first, I got all the stuff ready to go for you guys for the TPP. I got 3 audio clips I want to play for you, so I'm gonna, in a limited amount of time, so I'm gonna try to get them all jammed into here. And then final segment, I want to go over Fukushima and an article titled 36 Reasons, or 36 Ways the Media, or it's either 36 Reasons hold on, let me give you the proper title here. It's 36 Signs the Media is Lying About Fukushima. There you go. I knew it was 36 something. 36 signs the media is lying about Fukushima. We're going to get into that in the second segment of the second hour. But first, let's discuss the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is not talked about enough. You can't discuss this enough. So first, I'm going to play a clip for you, giving you the basics of what it is. So first, let's get into that. The TPP.
The biggest threat to the internet you've probably never heard of. The TPP is the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. TPP is a trade agreement being negotiated between more than 12 countries around the Pacific region. It has more than 26 chapters, and it covers a broad spectrum of issues, from trade of dairy, meat, textiles, and automobiles, to financial regulation, to labor regulations, and more. But one chapter poses a huge threat to the internet. The chapter concerning intellectual property enforcement. We can't exactly know what's in that chapter because TPP is being negotiated in secret Through a series of backroom deals that shut out the public, trade officials won't release the text of the agreement or even tell us what their policy positions are on any issue. One thing we know is that while the public is shut out of the negotiating process, private corporate interests aren't. In particular, big content industries are spending ginormous amounts of money in lobbying to convince policymakers that more aggressive and draconian copyright laws will lead to more innovation, more creativity, and more jobs. But in reality, that just isn't the case. If adopted, the copyright enforcement measures proposed in the TPP could make the internet intimidating and repressive. Users will be afraid to view, share, and interact with digital content. An early version of the text has been leaked, and you should be worried about what's inside. Internet service providers could be forced to become private copyright enforcers, lest they risk liability for the content posted by their users. While the TPP includes certain protection from liability, experience with similar provisions in the US suggests that ISPs will be encouraged to take down, filter, and block legitimate content, requiring only a private notice from an alleged copyright holder. The copyright industry is obsessed with restricting users from tinkering with devices and content, out of the fear that people will then use them for copyright infringing purposes. So what they do is install digital rights management software, or DRM, on devices to limit what users can do. Despite growing evidence that DRM does much more harm than good, this prevents consumers from unlocking their phones to change telecom carriers. Artists, like documentary filmmakers, who break encryption on a DVD or sample online streaming videos could face legal threats, even if the videos they create are legal. People with visual or reading disabilities can be prevented from changing the format of books and movies to make them more accessible. Not only that, DRM, backed by the full force of the law, can be used to stifle competition. For example, a company can block unauthorized software or content from working with their devices just by enabling DRM. Corporations claim that DRM is necessary to fight copyright infringement online and keep consumers safe from viruses. But there's no evidence that DRM does much to combat either of those things. Fans should not be treated like criminals, and companies should not get an automatic veto over user creativity, choice, and innovation. These are only some of the problems with the TPP's copyright enforcement provisions. They would be harmful for everyone, except for companies that use these policies to suppress innovative competitors or to criminalize sharing. Instead of spending their resources to create new products that respect the internet and new technologies, they're lobbying for policies that would hinder and break them. Severe copyright policies restrict our right to share, modify, and experiment with content and technology. Innovation cannot thrive without these freedoms. Internet users need to know what is going on in these secret trade negotiations. Internet users have a right to participate in this powerful international deal that will impact millions of lives for decades to come. Let's show our policymakers that we won't let backroom trade deals determine what we can do with our technology. Let's show them that we, the users, are unified against corporate efforts to restrict our rights. The internet is ours. It's up to us to defend it.
It's corporations, again, dictating control over the internet. See, they don't like the free internet. Oh, it hurts copyright. No, it doesn't. First of all, if people can download songs, like iTunes proof that people can download the songs simply from the internet for 99 cents, and they end up buying the album usually because they might hear one or two songs they like, and they end up buying the album. So it helps. The internet's actually helped sales. It's just it doesn't fit in line with, well, I mean, it helps sales to a certain extent. It hurts their bottom line with their old business model, and they don't want to change their old business model. See, that's what it is. They don't want to change their business model to the market. They want to change the market to match their business model. And they want to stifle innovation, and it's also about censorship. That too. But some of the companies are in it just because they don't want you to be able to innovate. Oh no, can't have that. Can't be innovative. No. Not unless we control it. We make all the money. See, greed. By the way, money isn't evil. It's a misquote, money is the root of all evil. Wrong. It's the love of money is the root of all evil, is the proper way. The love of money is the root of all evil. Anyway, I want to get into the two other clips that I want to play. One of them is from Democracy Now!, and this is a clip from last year. They interviewed one of the activists, and the other one's going to be from, I'm going to play a clip of Abby Martin. This is more recent, and it's the reason I'm going to play that one third, because it's more of a, it explains the TPP, just like these other two, the one I just played and the one I'm going to play, a little bit, but it also explains how you can fight it, because people are going to ask, how you can fight it, right? People are going to say, well, how you can fight it. So you're going to hear that. And one of the reasons I wanted to present this to you this way was, instead of hearing me just pontificate about the TPP, it's almost like I'm having a roundtable with Abby Martin and her guest, and the guest that's on the Democracy Now! Clip, and the people that made the other audio clip I played. And it's presenting you information about the TPP from different sources, not just some quote-unquote radio show host that's telling you, ooh, boogity, boogity, be scared of the TPP. I'm giving you a bunch of different sources. You're hearing from a couple. You're going to hear from one activist now and another one from the clip I play from Abby's show. So it's different people telling you the same thing. So obviously the TPP, not good. The truth is, it's not good. I mean, even most of our elected officials have been cut out from knowing what's going on and having any insight and input into it, but these corporations aren't. Check this out. It's pretty incredible what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. And there's a lot of protest, but again, like RT published today, apparently, Congress introduces Obama's fast-track authority on global trade pacts, like TPP. So there are congressmen that are trying to say, look, we don't want to have any debate on this stuff. It's either a yes or a no vote. So whatever propaganda and stuff is fed to them, there's no debate. They get on the floor, it's yes or no. And remember, a lot of times these congressmen and women or senators don't know anything about what a subject until it might be brought up on the floor, because there are levels of filtration. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. A lot of times it's their staffers, the younger staffers, that bring it to their attention. But now, Congress, just like with everything else, they're lazy. They don't even want to do their job anymore. They're pretty much, the country, by the way, was set up with 3 different branches, so you'd have to have this division. So you couldn't have a tyrant. And they're creating the conditions for a tyranny. Congress is literally saying, we don't want to have this authority. We're going to give it to the president, let him fast-track certain things, because there's certain things that need to be fast-tracked. And, the legislative process, you have political terrorists. They like to call each other political terrorists because they want to debate things. Well, the Tea Party, the government shutdown. We need to push this fast-track authority so we don't have stuff like that, because God forbid somebody has to wait 2 weeks for a law to get passed. See, the problem is they won't pass certain legislation that actually affects Americans, so that way there's an impact, and then they turn around and they say things like this, and they expect the Americans to go, please don't debate things, Congress. Just tell the president dictator he can do whatever he wants, no matter who the president is, I may add. Remember, Obama set things up, or Bush set things up that he didn't use, but that Obama's taken advantage of. Obama's setting things up that, he does take advantage of, but it's also for the person that, comes in after him. They always, do you think they ever repeal anything? Do you think that Obama was going to really repeal any of the executive orders that Bush put in? No, because most of that stuff was put in for future presidents, not really Bush. They were paving the road. Bush paved the road, Obama's driving the car, and now his administration is paving the road for the next one. And then they'll pave the road for the next one. Well, maybe by that point they'll just be a dictator, if we allow it to continue. Anyway, get too sidetracked. So, here's the clip from Democracy Now! About the TPP. It's a little bit more in-depth, and you're going to get a chance to hear from one of the activists, and I can't remember her name right now. But you'll hear her introduced by Amy Goodman. So here we go.
The TPP is often referred to by critics as NAFTA on steroids, and would establishing a free trade zone that would stretch from Vietnam to Chile, encompass 800 million people, about a third of world trade and nearly 40% of the global economy. While the text of the treaty has been largely negotiated behind closed doors, more than 600 corporate advisors reportedly have access to the measure, including employees of Halliburton and Monsanto. Well, for more, we're joined by Lori Wallach, Director of Public Citizens Global Trade Watch. Lori, welcome back to Democracy Now! Just explain what the TPP is.
Well, one of the most important things to understand is it's not really mainly about trade. I guess the way to think about it is as a corporate Trojan horse. The agreement has 29 chapters, and only 5 of them have to do with trade. The other 24 chapters either handcuff our domestic governments, limiting food safety, environmental standards, financial regulation, energy and climate policy, or establishing new powers for corporations. For instance, there are the same investor privileges that promote job offshoring to lower wage countries. There is a ban on buy local procurement so that corporations have a right to do sourcing, basically taking our tax dollars and instead of investing them in our local economies, sending them offshore. There are new rights to, for instance, have freedom to enter other countries and take natural resources, a right for mining, a right for oil, gas, without approval. And then there's a whole set of very worrisome issues relating to internet freedom. Through sort of the back door of the copyright chapter of TPP is a whole chunk of SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act, that activism around the country successfully derailed a year ago. Think about all the things that it would be really hard to get into effect as a corporation in public. A lot of them rejected here and in the other 11 countries, and that is what's bundled in to the TPP. And every country would be required to change its laws domestically to meet these rules. The binding provision is each country shall ensure the conformity of domestic laws, regulations, and procedures. Now, the only reason I know that level of detail is because a few texts have leaked, and I have been following the negotiations and grilling negotiators from other countries to try and find between the lines what the hell is going on. Otherwise, totally secret.
Well, Lori, about that secrecy, even members of Congress have been severely limited in what they can learn, and that's only after the revelations about the total secrecy that this whole process began with. Could you talk about what members of Congress are allowed to know and how?
Well, what's really important for people to know, and this gets to what you started out with about fast track, Congress has exclusive constitutional authority over trade. It's kind of like the Boston Tea Party hangover. After having a king just impose tariffs, in that case on tea, the founders said, we need to put all things about trade, international commerce, in the hands of Congress, the most diffuse part of the elected representation, not the executive, the king. So Congress has all this authority. They're supposed to be exclusively in control, but until this June, they were not even allowed to see the draft text. And it was only after a big great fuss was kicked up by a lot of members, 150 of them wrote last year, that finally members of Congress, upon request for the particular chapter, can have a government administration official bring them a chapter, their staff is thrown out of the room, they can't take detailed notes, they're not supposed to talk about what they saw, and they can, without staff to help them figure out what the technical language is, look at a chapter. This is in contrast to, say, even what the Bush administration did. The last time we had one of these mega NAFTA expansion attempts was the Free Trade Area of the Americas. And in that instance, in 2001, that whole draft text was released to the public by the U.S. government on the official government websites. So this is extraordinary secrecy, and members of Congress aren't supposed to tell anyone what they've read. So, for instance, Alan Grayson, who was one of the guys who helped get the text released, Alan Grayson said, I can tell you it's very bad for the future of America. I just can't tell you why. That's obscene. This would rewrite wide swaths of our laws. And again, it's mainly not about trade. So if we had this agreement in effect, for instance, it would be a big push for fracking. Now you would say, why fracking? Because it doesn't allow us to have bans on liquid natural gas exports. Or if this were in effect, we couldn't ensure the safety of the food we feed our families. We have to import, for instance, fish and shrimp that we know from the limited inspection that's done is extremely dangerous from certain kinds of growing ponds that are contaminated, etc., in some of the TPP countries. Or, for instance, some of the financial reforms where the banksters were finally regulated would be rolled back. All of this, and it would be privately enforceable by certain foreign corporations.
Let me ask you about a bill that didn't make it through Congress, but the question is it incorporated into TPP? And that's SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act. First, explain what it is and talk about where it fits in here.
So the Stop Online Piracy Act was a vehicle basically to take away some of our rights on the internet. It would have criminalized what they call inadvertent small-scale non-commercial copying. And the example would be, for instance, Juan, I had you over to dinner. You liked the recipe I had. I happened to have taken it for $2. I paid for it off of a paid website. And you said, Lori, can you send me that recipe? And, of course, I said, yeah, and I sent it to you. That is officially a copyright violation. I should say you have to go pay $2 and get it yourself, Juan. But, in fact, it's small-scale. I didn't sell it. It's not commercial. I didn't send it to a lot of people. That kind of activity under SOPA, as well as any number of things we do all the time, making a copy, or like a buffer copy that our computer would make to look at a video, or breaking a digital lock, for instance, if we bought software but we wanted to run it on Linux. All of those things would be considered criminal activities. We'd face huge fines, and our carriers, Google, etc., would have to take us off of service to black us out. So a huge limit on internet freedom. That whole mess was defeated in Congress in a wonderful citizen uprising. A chunk of that is now stuck in the copyright chapter of SOPA, of TPP. So they call TPP son of SOPA. And in a lot of countries around the TPP region, citizens have fought to have good laws that actually provide them access and don't allow that kind of control. So that is a chunk. To give you an idea of how varied the problems are, that's a chunk of what is in there. Now, the thing about that fast track you mentioned, fast track is not in effect. Fast track is an extraordinary delegation of Congress's authority. So if we don't want unsafe food, offshore jobs, SOPA, limits on internet freedom, the banksters getting rolled back into deregulation, we have to make sure that Congress actually maintains its constitutional authority to make sure that before this agreement becomes signed, it actually works for us. Fast track's a delegation of authority. President Obama's asked for it, but it only happens if Congress gives it to him.
And Lori, what's been the Obama administration's position on these negotiations in terms of tobacco? Could you talk about that specifically?
Well, the whole approach of the Obama administration has really been, I don't know, some combination of heartbreaking and infuriating. Because when he was a candidate, President Obama promised he would replace the NAFTA model. And instead, they've doubled down. So the tobacco issue is one of those that's the most gruesome. So the TPP includes the very controversial investor-state system, which empowers individual corporations to directly sue governments, not in our courts, but in extrajudicial tribunals where 3 corporate attorneys act as judges. And these guys rotate between being the judge and being the guy suing the government for the corporation. They're empowered to give unlimited cash damages from us, the taxpayers, to these corporations for any government action, a regulatory issue, environment, health, safety, that undermines the investors' expected future profits. Under that system, big tobacco companies have been attacking health regulations. And famously, infamously, these kinds of investor-state cases have extracted billions of dollars and undermined important laws. So Philip Morris has used this to attack Australia, one of the TPP countries, plain packaging of cigarette laws. So a lot of the TPP countries are very worried that they would be basically handcuffed from being able to regulate for health around tobacco. So the U.S. originally was going to offer an exception. Big Tobacco came in and basically won the day. The U.S. pulled away what was a medium exception, put in something that's really worse than nothing. And then Malaysia came in and actually offered a real exception, which the U.S. is opposing. Just like the U.S. is opposing an exception to maintain financial regulations for prudential reasons, just like the U.S. is opposing a real exception to those investor tribunals with respect to health and the environment. It's incredibly depressing. The only good news is a bunch of the other countries have basically said, basta, we are not going to roll back these things. So the reason there isn't a deal is because a lot of the other countries are standing up to the worst of these U.S. corporate-inspired demands. You can see the whole lay of this at Expose the TPP, www.expose the TPP. There are fact sheets on each of the ways, each aspect of your life that TPP could affect. And if you want to get down into the weeds and have long papers explaining and or information from other countries, you can go to tradewatch.org. That's tradewatch.org. Between those two sets of information, you'll see there's almost no part of your life or the things you care about that this agreement couldn't undermine. And again, trade's the least of it.
Lori Wallach, we want to thank you very much for being with us. Lori Wallach is Director of Public Citizens Global Trade.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we got a break coming up in about 2.5 minutes, so what I'm going to do is on the other side, when we come back, I'll play the last clip. It's about 6 minutes from Abby, and then I'll get into Fukushima. I'm going to cover the article, and I'll tell you where you can read the full one, but I'm going to cover some of the facts about Fukushima and some of the ways they're lying to us about that. I want to spend some more time on that. So far, TPP, not good, right? We're all basically understanding the same thing. This isn't about protecting trade or anything like that. It's only got a couple things that deal with trade. Everything else is going after the internet and freedom of speech and all this other stuff. Now, it specifically says that the countries have to change their own laws to go in flow, be in accordance with this treaty. Good point that was brought up by Ms. Wallach. Good point. A lot of these countries, there are people that fought for laws to protect us, or themselves, including even some here, to protect internet, to protect the internet and internet freedoms, I should say. Protect their rights. Those laws would go away. Gone, be rewritten. They'd have to be in accordance with the treaty anyway. All that for nothing. Over a treaty that's being discussed without your knowledge. You heard how only after an uproar did certain members of Congress, if they asked, and you know a lot of them don't care. It has to be, they have to be dragged and have their face put into the trough, right? And then they act. And even the ones that did ask were kept from it. Can't have your staff in there. We live in a free country. Right. TPP. We're going to finish up with the TPP on the other side. Stay tuned. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment, tonight's live edition, Down the Rabbit Hole. Make sure you check out my archives over at federaljack.com. All of my archives for the entire time I've been doing radio, almost 3 years, is over there. Downloadable for free. But support Truth Frequency as well. I urge you to, if you like my show and all the other shows here on the network, Chris Gio and Cherie Gio do us all a favor by providing us with this, and Chris does not charge any of us for the airtime. And he does put out the player and everything, and he, almost everything is free, right? Except for the high quality archives. So basically what I'm saying is just go and get a subscription. They're not that expensive, and you'll have access to 64K or something like that. 64K or 128K, something like that. CD stereo quality archives, and it's not just my show. And yes, I put mine up for free. So if you're a listener of my show, you can always grab mine stuff for free, commercial free from Federal Jack. But if you like my show and you like Truth Frequency and you like all the other awesome shows here, all the other awesome hosts who I'm honored to be amongst everybody at this network, is just an interesting individual in their own right. And I'm honored to be amongst the hosts here. This network sets the bar. Okay, it changes the way people look at what internet radio is. This isn't some fly-by-night operation. Chris is actually cutting a new path. It's not like he's following a path that others have cut before him. He decided to veer off and make his own path, and I'll tell you what, a lot of credit to him. So support Truth Frequency. Best way to do it: get yourself a subscription, and then you not only get access to my show archives on there, but you get access to everybody else's. Everything. And Chris does, again, all the hosts here do all this for free, and everybody puts a lot of time and effort into this for free. And there's no corporate sponsors. We don't have big money or anything like that coming in. And I never, ever, ever take the time out to show Truth Frequency the love that I should. So like I said, new year, I'm trying new things. So I want to take a minute and throw that out there. Again, it's not like you're donating money and not getting anything in return. I mean, you could do that too, but if you want something in return, get the subscription. And you have access for a whole year, or however long that you get the subscription for. I would just do the year, because it's usually the cheapest way. You end up saving money that way. But anyway, get a subscription, and then, like I said, it helps out the network, and it's much appreciated. So moving on, I want to play this last clip from Abby, and then about the TPP, and then I want to get into Fukushima. 36 signs the media is lying about Fukushima. But first, let's listen to what Abby and her guest have to say about the TPP. And like I said, Abby puts a little positivity into it. She offers some solutions, as you know I like to do. So here we go.
Negotiations for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or the TPP, have been conducted in total secrecy over the last 3 years. Now, in case you don't know, the TPP is an unprecedented series of negotiations, not led by world leaders, but by multinational corporations. The negotiations are in their final stages right now, but there's still very little public awareness about the entire issue of this massive trade bill. Unfortunately, there's also another problem on our hands. See, President Obama is counting on a fast track for the TPP that would rush it through without lawmakers having a chance to review the content. So here to talk about the latest and the dangers it poses, I'm joined by Margaret Flowers, organizer for popularresistance.org. Thank you so much, Margaret.
Thank you for having me, Abby.
So the TPP is labeled as a free trade agreement, but I've heard from many people who actually have analyzed what we do know about the text and have said that it's simply not true. If it's not a trade deal, what is it?
Well, it's a rigged corporate agreement is what it really is. I mean, it has 29 chapters, and only 4 or 5 of them are traditional trade issues. And the others have to do with dealing with what they call non-tariff trade barriers. That means like labeling food so you know what's in it, keeping the price of medications down. They're protecting the patents for the drug companies. They can keep their prices high, and deregulating finance, those kinds of things that corporations have wanted to get through Congress, but they haven't been able to do it through the front door.
And how many corporate advisors are we talking about?
Well, that's the interesting thing. This is being negotiated in a really different way. Instead of Congress overseeing it and writing the negotiations, 600 corporate advisors from, Monsanto, Halliburton, Cargill, all the
great, all the corporations I trust the most.
Exactly. They have direct access to the text, and they can alter it, while our own members of Congress have very restricted access to it, and then they can't talk about it because it's classified if they do see it.
Margaret, it begs the question, who's really running the show? Who's really running this country here? If Congress can't even look at it, yet these massive corporations can. I mean, it's the biggest trade negotiation almost in history.
Exactly.
How has it been able to stay out of the spotlight for so long? I mean, I'm not even on the media at all.
I know. That's the amazing thing is, I guess, through the corporations' control of the media as well as, the corporate media, they've really blacked it out. They've kept it out. This has been going on for almost 4 years, and it's really just breaking through recently into the media.
Is there any way for the average person to see the text, or do we have to rely on some sort of whistleblower to release it from the inside?
It would be great if a whistleblower would stand up and and do this, because this is really undermining democracy in this country, and it's going to hurt all of us because it's going to affect our laws, even down to the local level. We'll have to comply with this agreement, which is being negotiated in secret, and the president is trying to rush it through Congress. So we know what we know from leaked text and from trade meetings and reports like that, but everything we've seen so far is very concerning.
You know, I guess my next question is, if Obama, if it is so unknown, it seems like there's still a vast majority of Americans who do not even know about the TPP. If you were to ask them on the street, they would have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
I guess I'm just confused with why is it that Obama's trying to fast track it if it seems like it's not really going to be a problem for him to pass it?
Well, if it actually had the light of day shined on it, if we actually had hearings in Congress and looked at the impact it would have on our economy, on wages, on food safety and healthcare, those kinds of things, it wouldn't be able to be passed. So the only way he can get this through and please the corporations that are writing it is if he rushes it through Congress. And fast track means that there would be no amendments and very restricted debate on it.
So is this almost just a preemptive measure before it even gets to that point?
Right. Well, the interesting thing is that, and this is what the previous trade negotiator said, was in order to get it passed, they needed fast track because other countries are putting in provisions that are going to harm them and that are not popular with their countries. And so they don't want to go any farther unless they know that Congress is going to pass it. And the only way they'll pass it really is through fast track.
Very undemocratic process.
Untransparent, yes.
Unbelievable. How would this bill affect the average American? Why should the average American care about the TPP?
Because it's so far-reaching, it's going to affect something that every person cares about. So if you care about the safety of your food or whether it's labeled to know if GMOs are in it, those things would be restricted. If you have medications that you need to buy and you care about the price of that, those prices will be kept high. If you care about internet freedom. The thing is, and even a big thing is Buy America. If you like to buy American products or buy local, that would be limited. So it really will require that our laws get changed even down to the local level and how we do things, and in a way that we have no control over. So it really undermines our sovereignty.
And when people hear that it's being an effort led by corporations, and that corporations are kind of writing and managing this whole process, can you speak really, really briefly about the court system that will be instated?
Thank you for bringing that up. It's called the International Trade Tribunal, and this is a court that operates outside of our judicial system where corporations can sue countries if their laws interfere with expected profits. So if they wanted to frack in an area and a community bans fracking, that community could be sued for that, for millions of dollars. So it really, here and around the world, what it's going to do is undermine our laws that protect the environment, consumers, and workers.
Absolutely. The local municipal efforts that are happening to, label GMOs, ban fracking, stuff like that.
Protect water from being privatized, exactly.
Without this much-needed corporate exposure from the corporate media, rather, how can we prevent this from moving forward?
Well, the nice thing is that it's already been slowed, I think, because of some public pressure. The president had wanted to have fast track by now, and they haven't even introduced the bill. More and more people are learning about this and working together and contacting their members of Congress, letting them know that this is not okay to fast track it through. So we can stop fast track if we get involved.
So everyone has to contact Congress, tell them no on the fast track, and more importantly, no on the TPP in general. What can people do to just stop the entire bill from moving forward before we can really get some public insight?
So our campaign is called flushthetpp.org. People can take the pledge there and they'll get information and tools to take action. The primary thing at first is to stop Congress from passing fast track, and then if they don't pass fast track and this comes to Congress, we have to demand full hearings. We need to know the full implications of this bill on us. I think otherwise it's that's what democracy is about. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Margaret Flowers, co-director of Is Our Economy. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you for having me.
I agree. We have to have full debate and discussion about this. I mean, if it's so good for us, why not? See, the only reason to hide something from you is not because they know better than you and you're too stupid. It's because you're smart enough, even a blind, retarded monkey could figure out by reading the text that it doesn't benefit you and it only benefits them or their masters. That's why you're not allowed to see it. See, when things are kept in secret and hidden from you, they don't benefit you. Think about it this way. Just personalize it. Put it to your own personal life. And then we're going to move on to the Fukushima thing. If they're hiding something from you, like the radiation from Fukushima, for instance, okay, if they're hiding something from you and won't tell you, it's not good. It's not for your own benefit. Personalize it and think about it this way. If your husband was cheating on you, or your wife, or your spouse, whoever, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, was cheating on you, and your friend knew but didn't tell you, or friends knew but didn't tell you, wouldn't you be pissed off when you found out? Happens a lot, right? Happens all the time. Yes, people get mad. Okay? You get mad over that. Emotional, pissed off, might even break things, start a fight. Now, shouldn't you be mad that the government, the powers that shouldn't be, are hiding things from you? Just as much as that person cheating on you and affecting your life in that matter, the things that they hide from you are just as bad and affect your life, maybe not the same way, but in a negative way just as much. But you're not mad at them because they hid it from you for good reasons. They hid it from you to protect you. But if your friends gave you that same exact excuse, well, I didn't want to be the one to tell you I hid it from you to protect you because I knew I was convinced it would just devastate you and I didn't want to do that to you, so I hid it from you. It's not okay when your friend does it, or a loved one or someone you know does it, but it's okay when your government does it. And it affects your life in even a greater way. Think about it. It's not okay. And if that person, if you look at it on a personal level, if they're lying to you about what they're doing and they end up doing something shady like cheating on you, or they have a really bad drug habit or something that they're hiding from you, whatever, right? Obviously what they were doing, they considered not to be good and did not want you to know about it, not for your own benefit or because you couldn't handle it, but because it negatively reflected on them for whatever multitude of reasons. That's why things are hidden from you. Look at the big picture the same way you would look at the little picture. Micro, macro. As above, so below. The law of correspondence. Understand universal laws and the way things really work. Moving on, I want to get into Fukushima before we run out of time. I have about 12 minutes. I want to talk about Fukushima, and the original article is from truthwins.com, thetruthwins.com, and I don't know anything about the website itself. I know the article is written by Michael Snyder, but I don't know if this is where I found it from. I don't know if they copied it from him, which they probably did. Maybe he wrote it for them. Anyway, thetruthwins.com is where I found this article, and it's the information that's posted is not fake. It's all accurate, and they give links and everything else. I'll drop the link to it in the chat room. By the way, it doesn't mean when I drop a link to a website or something, to an article or a story I'm talking about, don't think that I endorse any of their sponsors or anything that's on their page, because I don't know about who, I don't endorse, I don't do that. I don't endorse sponsors and stuff like that. I don't get into that, and I don't know who. I don't always agree with even all of my friends, so I'm not saying that I agree with everything they've ever said in their lives, because that's an argument that somebody would try to bring up. It would be a straw man, or even in the case of a red herring, be a logical fallacy-filled argument that someone would try to bring up. So I always throw it out there to debunk that right off the bat. That way later on, if it's ever brought up, I can always point back to the fact that I openly already pointed this out, and that's a logical fallacy, and you're done. So, okay, you guys all know how my mind works. Sorry. Anyway, 36 signs the media is lying to you about how radiation from Fukushima is affecting the West Coast. So we've all established, anybody with half a brain, that yes, radiation is no good, right? We've all figured this out. Okay. I'm assuming that we're all on the same page. Some of you that might not still understand that radiation, that even low levels of radiation are not good for you because it's cumulative, catch up, do some research, I'm not being a dick, but we're running out of time, so I have to kind of compact this. I know I'm not going to get through all of them, but let's get through a bunch of them. First, number one, independent researchers have measured alarmingly high levels of radiation on the beaches of the West Coast. And then the video they post was shot on December 23rd, 2012. And you can look it up. Just look up Fukushima radiation hits San Francisco, and you'll see the video on YouTube. And it's been confirmed. The officials on the West Coast were forced to confirm that there were spikes in radiation, although the excuses they gave were just ridiculous. They said that it was strictly background radiation and that it was probably from red-painted utensils like forks and knives and stuff that have been thrown away in the trash. I couldn't make this up. So it's red paint that gives off that much radiation. It makes the level spike. Okay. Let's see what else. There's a bunch of stuff on here. Look, Cenk Uygur, former MSNBC host, admitted that while he was at MSNBC, he was instructed to not warn the public about the radiation coming from Fukushima. Now, if anybody's ever listened for a while, you know how I feel about the Young Turks. Not big fans of them. And as I've said, I've called him out because a lot of people say, he left MSNBC because he had standards. Well, obviously he didn't, because he was forced. He said he was forced to not talk about Fukushima. But do you see him blowing the whistle now and jumping up and down about it now? No. No, you don't. Maybe once in a while there'll be a story or something about it, but he doesn't really talk about it, does he? So, again, that's a side issue. Anyway, this is him talking about it. Quote, I was on MSNBC at the time when this happened. I said, quote, don't trust what the government is saying. They'll say, trust what the electric power company is saying. Go, get out of here, get as far away from that plant as you can. It's literally a core meltdown, end quote. And they always don't want people to panic, so they were always like, oh, it's going to be okay, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes into how he argued and said, you're crazy, don't be anywhere near that reactor. And he says, and I remember at the time, of course, not at the Young Turks, but on the cable news, people were like, hey, Cenk, I don't know that you want to say that, because the official government position is that it's safe. Now, I'm sure there was other things said. See, the way he breaks it down is he tries to break it down like it's a conversation. He's trying to be cool about it. I guess they probably took it from a video of him being interviewed or something he might have done on the Young Turks. I haven't seen exactly where the video of him saying this came from yet, but I know how he talks. Anybody that's ever heard the Young Turks knows how he talks. I wish it was a little more clear and posted a little more clearly. But the point is, you can see he was told not to talk about it. I'm sure it wasn't so much like, hey, Cenk, come here, let me talk to you for a second. I'm sure it was like, hey, come here for a second. You like your show here? Yeah, I like my studio. Good. Maybe you shouldn't talk about Fukushima because the government's official position is this, that, the other thing. Oh, and by the way, yeah, the GE reactor. Yeah, GE, we bring good things to life like MSNBC. Maybe not so much good things. Anyway, number 4, 71 U.S. sailors who assisted with the initial Fukushima relief efforts have developed serious illnesses such as testicular cancer, thyroid cancer, leukemia, unremitting gynecological bleeding, and brain tumors since that time as a result of exposure to radiation coming from Fukushima. 71 U.S. sailors that were on the Ronald Reagan. Because you have to understand something, even though you're on a huge ship like that and it's enormous and you have all this access, when you're on a mission or underway on something like that, you'll be told, by your commanding officer, and it'll be passed down through your command and through the chain of command, and it'll get to you that you're not to talk about certain things. You're not, they'll only have certain TV shows on. They'll black information out. They won't. I remember when we'd get underway, when we were underway, they don't want to pay satellite fees and everything else because that costs a lot of money. So you don't have access. You only had TV access if you were in port, and your cell phone don't work 400, 500, 600, 700 miles out in the middle of nowhere, 1,000 miles out in the middle of the ocean. Your cell phone's not going to work. So you're limited to the information that your radio guys or your IT guys or whatever get, and they're just told by the chain of command, shut up and don't say anything, and their access is limited. So these sailors didn't even have any clue they were sailing into danger. But hey, don't worry about the Fukushima radiation. It's healthy because the EPA raised the limits of radiation that they say humans can be subjected to. So don't worry about it. Number 5, something is causing starfish all on the west coast of the United States to literally disintegrate into, quote, piles of white goo. I've talked about this. I've played audio about this. But hey, don't worry about that. Number 6, bald eagles are dying in unprecedented numbers in Utah, and nobody can figure out why this is happening. Really? Really? Maybe you should do what do they call it? A necropsy, which is an autopsy on an animal? Radiation poisoning? Oh, Papa, we'll just keep those findings classified. Shh. Bird flu. Right. I'm not saying that's what they're saying. They're actually saying they have no idea why. Right. Right. They have no idea why. Number 7, huge numbers of Alaskan birds are dropping dead and washing up along the coastlines of Alaska. It's being reported that many of the carcasses of the dead birds are broken up and bleeding. Sounds like radiation poisoning. Number 8, the recent deaths of thousands of birds in Oregon is absolutely baffling scientists. Right, because, see, if you take the elephant in the room out of the room, the answer, we're baffled. Right. Number 9, something is causing large numbers of seals and walruses in Alaska to lose their hair and develop oozing sores. Sounds like radiation poisoning, but nope. Number 10, substantial numbers of polar bears along the coast of Alaska are suffering from fur loss and open sores. By the way, to my friends that listen in Alaska, to whoever you are out there, I know there's a bunch of listeners and readers on Federal Jack that listen in Alaska, whether it's live or later on. Some of you I know are in the Coast Guard up there. Guys, really, please heed this with heed these warnings and take this for what it is, for being real. Don't believe what you're being told, that you're not being exposed to radiation, because you are. And you're going to get sick. Again, I reference these 71 sailors on the Ronald Reagan. Number 11, there's an epidemic of sea lion deaths along the California coastline. And by the way, all of these, when you go read the article, if you go over to the chat room, I put the link in the chat room in the Listen Live section. If you read the article, and again, it's on thetruthwins.com, 36 signs, you can just look it up, 36 signs the media is lying to you about how radiation from Fukushima is affecting the West Coast. And when you look it up, each one of these has links. Like, there's part of the thing is a hyperlink to evidence of what he's talking about and what's listed in here. Number 12, the population of sockeye salmon along the coastlines of Alaska is at a historic low. No connections at all to radiation, none at all. Let's see. Number 13, something is causing Pacific herring to bleed from their gills, bellies, and eyeballs. Definitely, I'm sure it's not a connection to Fukushima. It's probably just a coincidence. Number 14, dangerous levels of cesium-137 have been discovered in mushrooms and berries grown along the West Coast. Now, remember, mushrooms pull crap out of the ground. They're a good indicator. Number 15, according to an absolutely shocking report put out by the National Academy of Sciences, it has been proven that Pacific bluefin tuna have transported radioactive material, quote, across the entire North Pacific Ocean, end quote. And I've talked about this before, that they've been testing the bluefin tuna. And there's more. We only got up to, what, 15? "36 signs." We only got up to 15, and they're already shocking. And there's evidence for every one of them. Go check it out. TheTruthWins.com is the website that the original article's on, by Michael Schneider. At least that's where I found it. Maybe there's another link to the original one. But just look it up. 36 signs the media is lying to you about how radiation from Fukushima is affecting the West Coast. Need to pay attention to this, ladies and gentlemen. It's real.
This is Sparta!
No fear-mongering, just giving you the truth. The straight truth. Nothing but the straight truth. All right, we're out of time. I love you all. Keep researching for yourself. Don't believe it just because I told you. Research, research, research. You are all the solutions to the problems that are out there. I love you all. Catch you all again tomorrow night.